Hey guys, I'm Hector. If you know me, you'll know I've been Challenger in every single role before, and for the past 4 or 5 years I've studied low elo at skill cap to help players improve. There's probably not a single Challenger player in the world that has played as much low elo as I have, and in this video I'm going to cover 5 very common mistakes I see almost every single game. These are mistakes that are either making you lose, or they're opportunities you're not punishing nearly enough. So there's one mistake for every role. I will say that there's a lot of overlap between them, but you can just watch whatever you want. Before continuing, I know I've been gone from the channel for a while, and that's because I was behind the scenes working on some huge courses over at SkillCap to help our members climb fast. We've worked on some really good courses covering the fundamentals that truly help you climb, like trading, wave control, macro, and much more. These are all designed to genuinely get you to at least a master's level on these topics in a really short amount of time, regardless if you just started playing or have played for years. I really do recommend checking out these courses, partly because I was worked to death on them, but also because they will actually help you. And if they don't, there's a rank up guarantee anyways. If you don't climb, you don't have to pay. Be sure to check out those courses on our website after this. Anyway, the first mistake I'm going to be covering will be for bot lane, because there's 2 people down here, which means this mistake is twice as likely to happen, and believe me, I see it happen way too often. I'm about to go into this laning phase, and I want you to pay attention. All 3 players in this lane are going to instantly troll themselves, and sadly, they're not aware of it. At a first glance, everyone is fighting for level 2. I'm happy that people are improving, they're aware that level 2 is important, so they're contesting for it, but all 3 players are doing it wrong because they don't understand about over pushing. League is kind of a game of turns. You get a turn to be aggro, then I get a turn to be aggro, and we kind of go back and forth until someone gets a lead. Unfortunately, players tend to not make very good use of their turns. The mistake is hitting the wave way too much to hit level 2. Getting a level lead is pointless if your wave is in a bad spot. By the time they get level 2, look at how many more minions they have than we do. This wave is pushing so quickly into us that I can chill all the way back here, and this makes it so that the free turn they had at the beginning of the lane is now over. Okay, so how was Nautilus trolling then? Well, you see, early on I realized that they're over pushing, so I stopped auto-attacking completely, but my Nautilus tried to be a bit of a bro. He's like, guys, no, you're trolling, let me help you. Every time he auto-attacks the wave, he's canceling out one of the enemy duo's auto-attacks. He's basically trying to fix their over pushing. This is a concept called matching autos. I will let one of the previous versions of myself explain it. You don't want to over push, but you do want to push, right? You want a small push lead, something like this. And if your opponents hit the wave, then you answer back. And if they don't hit the wave, you don't hit the wave. So you see how Kog'Maw's hitting the wave? I'll hit it a little bit, but when he stops auto-attacking, you see how I'm not auto-attacking? And this way, you don't over push the wave, and it kind of stays in the middle, a little bit like this, and we're able to more easily harass our opponents. Did you manage to catch that during that whole thing, my Vayne was also over pushing? Like I said, this happens almost every single game. You want slow pushes. You want like 1, maybe 2 more minions than your opponent. That makes the wave stay in the middle longer, and it gives you more time to harass them. This is the thing about bot lane. Sometimes your partner is going to play the wave wrong, but you don't want to make that same mistake with them. At the very least, don't end up making things worse, you know? Back to the Ezreal game, my opponents missed their turn, so the wave crashed, and it's now bouncing. After a bounce back, it's typically going to be your turn, and we make very good use of it. I'm only hitting the wave as much as I need to give my Nautilus plenty of time to find engages to kill our opponents. This laning phase was unfortunately decided in about 10 seconds from when it started, and it's all from such a simple mistake to fix. A quick side note, by the way, that little Zyra moment was one of 5 educational commentaries I upload to our site for every role on a weekly basis. What's nice about them is that we are, what's the word, compelled to answer any question you throw at us. So you can ask me or any of our other Challenger commentators anything about the game in question, or literally anything else. You want tips on a random matchup, you want runes, items, whatever, or you want to know the weather in London, I got you. Anyway, moving on back to the video, I already know I'm going to get comments about this next mistake. I can feel them coming already. Let's move on to jungle. This is a role I feel pretty sad for, because I feel like jungle players care a lot about strategy and decision making in this game. You know, it's the role about pathing, what lanes you play for, win condition, and whatnot, but the problem is that you start to overthink things. A common issue, and this happens to me as well by the way from time to time, is that when you care so much about one thing, you end up tunnel visioning on it to the point of being blinded by it, and then all of the care and knowledge you have about that topic kind of loops back to making you bad at playing around it. And for junglers, that is definitely objectives. I am not kidding when I say 80% of games I play in low elo are not won because I'm good, but because the enemy jungler will make the most ridiculous call for an objective. Why is this Shaco starting dragon here? Or this Rammus, I have priority in top lane, and he's like, nope, I don't care, I'm fighting to the death for these grubs. I swear it's a bit outrageous what I'll see. I will literally get a quadra kill. The game is over, and my jungler will begin flaming me afterwards. And then he will genuinely AFK out of tilt because I didn't rotate the dragon a single time. I really, really hate parroted advice like, don't play for kills, objectives are what wins games, or you need to accelerate your lead and destroy towers to open up the map, bro. They're words that put together sound kind of smart, but in reality, they're not very helpful, and they can actually end up hurting how players view the game. So I'm going to give you my perspective on objectives. I feel like this approach makes it far less likely you throw a game over them, but at the same time, it's going to help you secure them more often as well. Objectives are simultaneously extremely important to winning, but also completely irrelevant at the same time. In my opinion, the best way of viewing them in solo queue is more as a means to an end. They don't actually help you win the game, they just help you close it out. You don't just randomly get Dragon Soul and be like, oh nice, we can start winning now. No, you get Dragon Soul because you were winning most of the game and you got to take every single dragon. When you secure Void Grubs, every tower on the map doesn't just suddenly explode, it just so happens that the winning team will usually get Void Grubs and push towers. It's simple, most of the time, the winning team will secure objectives and the losing team will have to give them up. So it is okay to take your time and farm more jungle camps to help yourself. It is okay to play for kills and not care about dragon or herald or any tower. The easiest way to secure an objective is simply by being strong. I'm on vision right now, but I don't care in the slightest. My lanes are winning, I'm winning, so we'll naturally get these grubs. I don't have to try to get them. There's just nothing the enemy jungler can even do about it. I want you to avoid situations like this, okay? So here is Zed, I gank, and we fight in bot lane. We kill 2 of them, including the enemy jungler, and the support is now low too. Many players will immediately think, okay, we've got 4 people here, let's convert these kills into dragon. But my teammates are low, my TF needs to go back to mid, the enemy Orianna just pushed and went missing, and my bot lane needs to push out. Do you hear all of these variables and this and that? We could maybe get the dragon, but it's so forced and complicated that I say, no thanks, I just go farm my Krugs. We end up losing this dragon later. It's fine, it doesn't matter. Or, if you remember this example, we wiped Shaco's team after his crazy dragon call. But after the fact, I'm playing Nautilus jungle, which is beyond useless. I do no damage, and my Samira is low on mana, and she needs to push her wave. Typically, you would finish this dragon here, but I just abort the call. I go back to farming. It's fine. I want you to do objectives when it's not a big hassle, when you don't have to think about it. It's convenient. Your teammates are in the area. You're not going to be overly contested. Or just focus on getting ahead in gold, items, kills. If you're stronger than your opponents, you will get most objectives by just killing everyone. I promise you that the less you care about them, the more often you will actually secure leads and objectives for your team. And now we're going to transition sentence to mid lane. It goes without saying that mid laners generally have the best wave clear in the game. This is because their main ability that they max tends to be an area of effects spell. So what ends up happening in trades is that when you cast spells, very often your abilities are hitting enemy minions and your opponent's abilities are hitting your minions as you trade. And I find that low elo players are often caught off guard by this because they don't think ahead for how abilities might change the landscape of the lane. Let's look at some examples. Right now, this Ahri clearly feels very safe playing around these minions. If I go in, I have to tank them, and she can maybe dodge my E by looping around them. Sure, that makes sense, but as they start to get lower on HP, these minions will die to very little AoE. So I try to land my Q on Ahri, I miss, but they're now low. So I E forward and they die in the middle of the trade, making it very easy to punish her positioning here, and I come out ahead. This exact play works way too often, especially around level timers. Right now, these minions are getting low. Syndra is probably mentally prepared to punish my last hit. If I walk up in auto, she'll combo me, or if I use Q, she'll have a cooldown advantage. However, as you can probably guess, I'm just going to use my E through the minions, hitting them at the same time. I level up and I get to chunk her off of this. This exact play catches people off guard way too often. I genuinely can't emphasize how undervalued killing minions in the middle of a trade is. Even from guides or coaching, I barely hear it discussed. Sometimes you should simply press your ultimate just to get a minion advantage during a trade. Don't underestimate how OP minions are. They do damage, they block skill shots, they give you more options, and they take away enemy options. Even at higher levels, they can do a lot. I'm telling you, this is a skill you really want to be more aware of because it's relevant consistent almost every single game, and it catches people off guard, even at higher brackets. Like, some of these are Masters ELO examples, by the way. I'm not just doing this to gold and platinum players. Versus the Zed, I Q the wave because I wanted to push. Now Zed has a big brain moment. Oh, RA's Q is down, so I have a cooldown advantage. Now I can fish for poke and whoa. Sorry buddy, I've ulted forward and your wave is dead. What are you gonna do? Well played to him, he managed to live, but enjoy going back to base. Even defensively, it ruins people's days. Here I'm trading versus Akali. Okay, then the most BS shuriken ever hits me. Fair enough, it's easy to panic here, but if you run away, Akali has a lot of DPS and can potentially chase down and kill me. So what do? I focus the wave and level up. Now she has to run away from me. She's out of cooldowns and the lane is not looking too good for her. I don't know what else to say. Killing minions during trades is such an underrated skill. People fall for it all the time, and I just recommend being more aware of it and actually practicing it. It's either going to save or win you a lot of laning phases. By the way, we just released our brand new mid lane essentials course at SkillCap that covers the A through Z of everything you need to learn to climb as a mid laner. This covers everything from trading to macro, team fighting, and anything else you could possibly need from a mid laner's perspective. It's nearly an hour's worth of content we've spent a very long time on, so make sure to check it out. Moving on to support, let me say this. I have spent years studying, coaching, playing low elo games now, and I don't think I have ever seen a support do what I'm about to talk about, which is a shame because it is one of the simplest and most effective methods to hard carry a game. After getting this double kill, Leona helps her Lucian push the wave into the tower, then they recall together. This is the mistake. It is such a big opportunity missed here. Let me break it down. In similar situations, you actually want to base before your ADC. In a way, you're kind of like sucking their tempo from them, because instead of helping them push, get plates or whatever, you get to leave the lane faster while they might have to stay in lane a bit longer. Here's why this can be so good to do. A support fundamental is to try to roam mid every time you come out of the base. You go mid, gank, pressure, put a ward down, or whatever, then you go back to bottom. The problem when you base at the same time as your ADC is that by the time you reach mid, they're already back in bottom all by themselves. This is what every support complains about. If you try to roam, your ADC often tends to die or make some silly mistake. But if you desync your recall, you go back to base faster. So while your ADC is pushing and resetting, you're already on your way to mid. Then when they start walking back to lane, you're also likely on your way back and you meet up in bot lane at around the same time. This is really important to do because supports can hard carry games through roaming. You can potentially be there more often for those game deciding grub fights, or you can gank, or even just put a bit of pressure in mid lane. You don't have to get a lot done. Point here is that you can do all of this while your ADC is not under any risk whatsoever. In this Leona's case, look at how slow her recall was. She can't even consider roaming to mid because she's already behind her Lucian. If she tried to roam now, she'd be leaving him alone for an entire minute. Instead, imagine if Leona was just here right now, which she could have easily done by desyncing her recall. If she was here, this is a free kill, then she goes back to bottom. It was a completely free opportunity missed because supports only ever recall at the same time as their ADC. That being said, I don't want you to tunnel vision on this and force it every single time. If your ADC needs help pushing, obviously help them push. You would do this when they're completely fine to push on their own and crash the wave. So in this case, Lucian had a ward in Tribrush and both bot laners were dead. He didn't need help pushing, so this was a prime example of when you would desync your recall. Alright, let's wrap things up with top lane, the role that you need to watch 50 wave control videos to be good at, and this isn't going to be an exception by the way. Probably one of, if not the most important skill to develop as a top laner is understanding that the positioning of a wave can completely change a matchup. A wave being here could make the lane unplayable, and then a wave being 5 yards down could completely change the dynamic of the 1v1. Positioning your waves consistently in a good spot for your champion is very important, and this shouldn't really be news to most top laners. The mistake I see the most often though is that to do that you need to 1. Crash the wave, and then 2. Play for the bounce back. The mistake low elo top laners often make is being extremely lazy about making sure their wave crashes, which is silly because making sure your wave crashes might be the single most important moment to be constantly aware of. Let me show you how often this happens. Here, I'm playing Aurelia and I completely grief myself. I somehow, instead of queuing both minions, I end up queuing one and then Riven. I don't get my passive stacked and I'm just dead. Yeah, I suck. I have no TP. This lane should be 100% over. Riven comes back to lane and has 2 long swords over me. The lane is, again, over. All she has to do is crash this wave and then bounce it back into her and I am screwed. Okay, she pushes the wave, and every time people forget about mirrored waves. Based on your own minions, she should know that I have an incoming one very soon. Why is she letting me hold the wave here? She had it. The lane was over. All she had to do was walk at me for literally 1 second. Now I can stabilize the lane. I eventually build up a slow push, and then I crash, and I've gone completely unpunished. Okay, another example. I'm playing Cho'Gath versus Darius. Honestly, I really suck. I can't land a Q to save my life and I die again. Honestly, I into way too much in top lane. Anyway, you can see how bad I'm playing. This Darius can very easily kill me. I'm not playing very well. In this matchup, all Darius has to do is get the wave to the center of the lane. If it's in the center, he can run me around, and it's even harder for Cho'Gath to land Q because of all of the open space in the lane that he can play around. I cannot emphasize this enough. This matchup is horrible if the wave is in the center of the lane. Okay, he instantly pushes this wave. He didn't have to, but he wanted to go ward or whatever. Sure. But please stop me from holding the wave here. All he has to do is walk at me for like 2 seconds and force the wave to crash. Instead, I hold the wave in the perfect spot. It took a while because my wave was far away, but you can tell how important this is to me. When he gets back to the lane, look how easy of a time I'm having. I can look for poke without being punished because Darius can't engage on me while I'm under my tower. I eventually land some spells, and now the lane is over for him. All he had to do was make sure the wave crashes and the lane would reset, and it'd be so hard for me to play. You can even take this a step further to sometimes bait your opponents into making this mistake. This is an extreme example, but it's just to highlight what you can potentially do. Right now, my wave hasn't even spawned yet. That being said, Tahm Kench is on a clock right now to crash this before the next wave gets here, or his lane state might end up looking a bit bad. So I'm going to knowledge check him. Due to the combination of Kench's bad wave clear and how cringe a Kali shot can be, I walk at him and bait him into trying to trade with me. This is a massive mistake. He spends so much time trying to chase me around that he didn't have time to crash before the next wave gets here. Now his lane is screwed. I just drag the minions for a moment to set up a freeze, and he's starting to realize what he's done wrong. All he had to do was ignore me. You need to be hyper aware of how important it is to finish crashing your wave. It didn't matter if I hit him here because he could have just recalled after crashing anyway. And again, that was an extreme example based on that matchup. It's hard to stall that long at a level disadvantage if you aren't a Kali. But let's say the incoming wave is around here. Sometimes all you need to do is stall your opponent for like 2 or 3 seconds and you'll achieve a similar result. Anyway, those are my 5 very common Loyola mistakes, and that's going to wrap up this video. I hope some of these tips help, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.